Okay, and Aidan, then on the payment, you mentioned a payment of €50 per hectare where the score is 1, 2, 3. Just to clarify, I suppose that's only available when it's low scoring.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, it's only I suppose if it scores 1, 2, or 3. I suppose if the Commonage scores 4 or greater, I suppose then the payment rate is there. So starting at €60 onwards. Yeah.
So this is participation to encourage everyone to engage on
exactly.
This. Perfect.
And I suppose just there was one more common one there that was coming through, John, just on the treatment of the leased or rented. I suppose there's a wee bit of confusion maybe just on. So as I said at the outset, I suppose it was Commonage was a mandatory action. It included all owned, rented or leased Commonage that was declared in the 22 BPS. And I suppose that all of that Commonage will be delineated and scored by the CP teams. Now, look at obviously if some of that rented or leased, if some of that Commonage drops off an applicant's or a participant's BIS application throughout the contract, that's fine. There will be no more payment made on that, but I suppose it won't have a clawback there for any payments that are already made, because that land, that Commonage will continue to be farmed by other shareholders in the scheme.
Thanks, Aidan. Okay, there's a couple of questions coming in here around, I guess, the structure of the scorecarding. And I guess the question is, again, it's trying to get an understanding of the rationale. So how many hectares are typically per scorecard? I guess ultimately this is coming down to the, I suppose, again, just highlighting that CP teams have assigned the scorecards. The advisors don't have to pick how big the area is of assigning the scorecard.
So just in relation to that, I suppose the peatland fields are typically quite large and can be very, very large, the entire parcel. And then for the grassland focused cards, there would typically be more than one scorecard per parcel, and the field boundaries are an obvious way of assigning a field. If they're low earth banks or the field boundaries aren't very distinctive, then a number of fields may be merged. And certainly in Breffni, where we're operating, there are a high proportion of very small fields, and so we would, as standard, merge 2 to 3 fields, and typically we wouldn't go less than 0.5 of a hectare for a field. Now, I mean, we're dealing with farms across the entire country, so any average isn't going to provide what an individual advisor will need to know about their clients particularly, but we've done our best to make it sensible and try to manage the workload to the best of our ability, while also retaining the ecological information that is necessary to plan for improvements over the next 5 years. Paddy, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I think that's fine, yeah.
Okay, and I guess a related one then is for the low input grassland scorecard in the general scheme, so acres general. If there's multiple fields in that, like, is it a scorecard per field or per LIPUS plot for low input grassland in Pat?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So it's basically whatever the advisor selected on the farm sustainability plan. So if the advisor split a parcel and put in LIG, split parcel as the action, there will be a scorecard sent for that area. If the advisor selected a whole parcel for the LIG action, so LIG whole parcel, a scorecard will be sent for that area. So it's based on the farm sustainability plan.
Okay, and again, in the case of rented or leased ground, ultimately, if it's rented and they applied for LIG, they're making a commitment that it's for 5 years.
Exactly, yeah. So LIG was voluntary. There was nobody forced to select LIG as an action. So when the advisor and farmer selected that area, they were committing that for 5 years. And it'll be the same for the CP rented lease parcels. By submitting a scorecard in year 1, that's the farmer's way of committing to that land for 5 years.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Another group of questions that's coming up is just, it's when will more detail be available on the NPIs? Will there be a specification available? I suppose it's just advisors trying to understand a little bit of the context of what will be happening with the NPIs landscape actions.
Yeah, so yeah, the plan is that there'll be a draft specification issued over the summer. I don't have a date yet, but we are working through it, trying to get a draft ready. There was a question come in as well. I saw, are non-productive investments mandatory? And the answer is no, they're not. They're voluntary actions a farmer can apply for on a yearly basis. So there's nobody forced to apply for non-productive investments. So I suppose, yeah, the target is over the summer we'll release a draft spec, similarly to how we would have released a draft specification for the general actions. And then at the time of application, there will be a final version available.
Okay. Pat, another one here for you is, what does it mean to initiate a scorecard and the clock starts ticking?
Yeah, so it's the date you're on the app, you take the picture. If you don't save it, it's not initiated. But say you open the scorecard in the app, you take the picture, you answer a question on the scorecard, and you click submit. Either submit draft or submit a fully completed scorecard. It's at that point you've initiated the scorecard.
Okay. And related to that, again, I know some of this is just going over material again, but I suppose, what's the protocol, or where can advisors change the scorecard? You know, and I guess that'll come up in the training itself. So scorecard is assigned by the CP teams, but the advisor goes out and believes there should be a change. Caroline, I think you had the slide on that.
Yeah, so I think Stephen mentioned it just in relation to the peatland, that there's a drop down for alternatives. So where there is a drop down and alternatives are available, those alternatives are available. Where there's no drop down, then that card is locked. So for example, I think some teams have locked the peatland card where they're very sure that it's peatland. I think we didn't, but we still would have. The act of assigning it peatland means we thought it was peatland. But just when you're out in the field and it turns out that it's a small field that was assigned peatland based on the aerial photography, you know it's definitely grassland, that should be available as an alternative to you. Again, the mechanics of it, I think Stephen is in a better place to.
Stephen, do you want to add to it anything?
Well, it's exactly like Caroline said. On some of the scorecards, you'll be provided with the options from that drop-down menu. If the options aren't available, well, then it's not available at the time. If you feel very strongly about it, I think it's probably should contact Acres or the CP teams. But what's made available is made available. As I said, the Grassland scorecard at the start, when you clicked into that one, it only had the Grassland scorecard as the option, whereas the peatland one had 4 different options. Each scorecard has its own various options, so that's all dependent on the app or captured within the app.
Okay, thanks.
And maybe just to add to that, it's only in AgriSnap, I suppose, that you can change the scorecard type. When you go back into GLAM, you have no option of changing a scorecard.
Okay, so that's an important point to note, that when the option is available, it's only available on the app itself, and that's predetermined. We have a protocol set up for what alternative would be assigned.
Just to be clear, Stephen, there are alternatives available if the Grassland card is selected, or if the Grassland scorecard has been assigned, correct? It was just your example, wasn't it?
That's my understanding. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I come in there, so if it's, so for the league action, low input grassland, the scorecard that will be used for league is only the grassland scorecard. So if you're going out scoring league, you cannot change grassland scorecard to an alternative. But if the CP team have assigned the grassland scorecard to a CP parcel, then the alternatives would be there, unless they have locked down that scorecard, which is unlikely.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Okay, and then just on the late meadow bonus, I suppose when's that made available? Again, just it's available on all low input grassland scorecards for acres general.
Yeah, so the late meadow bonus only applies to the general actions low input grassland and low input peat grassland. So a request will be sent for all those areas in the end of June, probably the day. So on the 1st of July, if somebody mows the field on the 1st of July, they can go out to the field, the advisor can go to that field, take the geotag photo and return that photo, and that is the claim for payment for that parcel. But the entire parcel has to be eligible. There is no facility to apply for late meadow bonus on part parcels. The entire area has to be eligible for the late meadow bonus. So the rules on the late meadow bonus are set out in the specifications. If you go to the specifications for both those actions, league and low input peat grassland, and read the detail on the late meadow bonus claim, it should be the
Just
first
to
part.
clarify, well, I saw a comment there on the FSPs on GLAM. There was a box that you could tick for low input if you intended on claiming for league or LIPG, the late meadow bonus. Now I just saw a query there. You don't, if you didn't tick that box on GLAM, it doesn't matter. If you have, as Pat says, if you have applied for league or LIPG on your acres application, you'll get the request for the scorecard, regardless of whether or not you tick the box in GLAM initially.
And also to add to that, ticking the box in GLAM is not a claim for payment. It was there, it was kind of, as a result, it was there on REAP and it was still on the screen, but it's not the facility for claiming a payment. So if you've ticked that box, that is not a claim for payment. You will have to do that through the AgriSnap app.
Okay.
Claim the late meadow bonus.
Yeah, but that's the only part of claiming for the late meadow bonus. It's the AgriSnap app. When that's received, if you want to claim it, you send in your picture on that.
Yeah, and the picture has to be clear and representative, because if it's not clear, a payment can't be made.
And just as well, to pick up on something else I saw, there's no other action that you need to do to claim for that late meadow bonus. Once you send in the AgriSnap photograph, that's your claim. You don't have to do anything else, sort of on your application or anything. That's the only thing you have to do to claim the bonus.
Okay, thanks. Josephine or Andy, do you see anything there? I think we're getting close maybe to the bottom of the key questions.
I think, John, we've covered a lot of them, but there is a question there maybe for Caroline or Patrick, and it's probably difficult to answer, but maybe based on your experience with DIPs, how long would it take to score, say, a small, medium, large farm? Just advisors. I know it's a very open-ended question, but if there was any advice, I suppose, based on your experience.
It might be, I suppose, just one of the slides earlier presented by someone, I'm not sure who it was Aidan maybe, that there's an average of 8 scorecards per farm in CP areas. I mean, that seems quite manageable. I think you definitely get that farm, if not 2 farms done in a day, if they're close by each other easily enough. But very large farms, certainly they could take a day. And small farms, you could get numerous done in a day. So it's really as specific as I can be. I think Pearl Mussel project, our experience, it would have been it was a bit more complex than the scoring we're doing here. So I think it'll be better efficiency on the acres CP.
Okay.
I suppose our experience as well, we we would have operated in the more grassland heavy areas where a lot of fields occurred. A project officer would do a verification of a 30 to 40 hectare farm in a day, depending on how many fields were in it. And then look, it depends on how many hours of daylight you use as well. But I know that advisors with 200 clients were able to manage that in the Hen Harrier program. I wouldn't say with ease, but they were able to manage. So.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Caroline. Just a related question. Can any trained acres advisor carry out the scoring for any farmer? So does it have to be linked to the application that they sent in? So maybe, Pat, you could answer that. If a specific advisor sent in an application, does that advisor have to score?
Yeah, so I suppose Stephen might be able to help out as well. So it's the advisor has to be linked to the farmer for acres. Okay, so if there's a change of advisor, then they'll have to go through a process to change to link a new advisor to that farmer. So the advisor will see all the requests on AgriSnap for all the acres clients that are linked to that advisor for acres. So once they go through the procedure for linking to that new farmer, then when they go onto the AgriSnap app, they should see all the requests. But I think there probably does need to be follow-up information on what steps they need to take to change, to link to a new advisor to a farmer. And maybe your own side, Josephine, will probably be sending out something on that to clarify the different steps after this webinar, I presume.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
There's just a general question there about the approval letters. When will the farm advisors get to see the approval letters? Like, will that be loaded up on the system to allow, I guess?
Yeah, that should be, the approval letter should be available on the system probably in over the next couple of weeks. I think they can, as far as I know, they can see the approval summaries, but they can't see the approval letters yet. But I think that's incoming. So hopefully over the next month or so, they should be able to log into their acres clients and then see the approval letter as well as the summary.
Yeah, so they can see a list of their approved acres clients at the moment. Or that's,
yeah, if they log into the acres portal, they'll see their clients with applications should appear. So they'll see that their applications have been submitted, and they should then be able to go into each one and look at, I think, the approval summary.
Okay.
Just, John, if I just clarify as well, so the only advisors that will be approved to submit scorecards, they first have to be approved acres advisors. So they will have done the day-and-a-half training. They need to be approved FOSS advisors to be an approved acres advisor, and then they need to have done the in-field training. So an approved acres advisor who has done their day of in-field training on the scorecards. If they're linked to that farmer, then they'll be able to submit the scorecard.
Yeah. So I guess, again, to just re-emphasize, the in-field training, it's compulsory for all advisors that want to submit scorecards, whether it's for CP or general. The CP teams are providing that training for everyone. There's more than 600 advisors have registered to attend these already. There's just over 50 places left for anyone that wants to join in on those. So again, it's get your names down on those. And if you want to, I suppose, attend more than one, you're more than welcome to do that too. And we'll keep it under review then as to whether there's additional events needed, and we'll be watching for the geographic location of those as well. And do you see anything jumping out that we've left out, or have we gone through the bulk of them? Again.
Sorry, John, can I just add a point there?
Yeah, work away, Stephen.
So as Pat was saying, advisors will see all their clients' requests on their phone once they're linked correctly. the filter options at the top of the home screen. So the parcel ID, the scheme, the status, the herd number are all filterable options, which will allow you to manage your workflow better. So if you're visiting 2 herds in the same area on the same day, you can restrict what appears on your phone to that herd throughout AgriSnap. So that allows you to manage your own workflow. So it may seem slightly overwhelming when you open it up and you see, I don't know how many requests you'll receive, but you can filter them down and whittle them down to specifically what you're looking for. So just to be aware of that.
Okay, I'm just trying to scan here the questions as they're popping up. But I think the majority of them are covered in terms of the themes that are arising. Yeah, I think we have the majority done now, unless anything jumped out to anyone else just scanning down through them. So maybe overall, I guess we're coming 1:45, so we said we'd have you finished by the 1 o'clock mark. I suppose to highlight again, the training that's in field is compulsory for everyone to attend. So again, register for the last number of places that are on that. We'll make the materials, both the webinar recording of this available, and we'll try and break out as well the individual pieces as well, like the video tutorial that Oisín done, that you can look at that separately in its own right. Again, it's acknowledged there's a significant workload here to be done. So the important thing is it's really getting to understand, I guess, what the scorecard makeup is, the nuances that are within that. There is guidance material to go with those scorecards as well, and tip sheets to try and make it a little bit easier. We're working to have the scorecard available on the app as soon as possible. So that's the 9th of June is where we're in on that, and advisors, once they have the training completed, they'll be able to submit scorecards as soon as that's available. So again, as Pat pointed out, once it's available, then it's to start to work as soon as possible on that to try and engage on it. And again, it's those early learning weeks. The CP teams and ourselves will be available for any queries or issues that are arising to try and ensure that there's as consistent an approach as possible on the system. Is there anything else that Josephine or Anne you want to add? Or okay, so then maybe we'll close this event. And again, thanks to all the speakers for their contributions here today. It was very well put together. I think it was very clear. Okay, thank you.